Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, excuse me, to day 2, of course, of our WGLEU Season 2 Super Week. That's right, 4 days of WGLEU action starting from Monday through Thursday, and we're just getting started. Oliver, good to have you with me as always, my friend. We'll be taking you guys through the next 3 nights of play. And if last night is anything to go on, I almost seem to say this every single week, but the upsets we saw now just goes to show that the whole league is very much still up in the air.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just weird being back for 2 nights in a row. I'm not sure exactly what day it is, what time it is, but yeah, it's good to be back. Yesterday was full of upsets. I mean, I think I can crown yesterday as a kind of one-shot king match day with so many artillery shots. It was unbelievable, but fantastic to see anyway.
And here are the scores for you, of course. First off, with a tiebreaker, it's Utopia taking down Oops, who actually found themselves, or still find themselves, situated close to the top of the ladder.
Yeah, they're actually sitting in first right now, so obviously we've got Tornadoes playing today, so that could, of course, change. But yeah, it was a fantastic match. Utopia just besting them. Rusty Russell Wombats, first 2 rounds went to Rusty on proc, and then Wombats just got 5 in a row, and it was pretty easy. I guess a big upset for most of you guys out there, being Kazna fans, would be the 5-2 for Kazna, for Synergy. And yeah, I mean, Kazna just not on their usual forms, including the Oops result, which they lost 5-3. So that's 2 losses in a row for them. They need to step it up.
The Oops result, Oliver, almost acceptable when we think about where Oops now find themselves on the ladder. But on the other side of it, it's Synergy who've been getting pretty consistently dumpstered every match day, at least that I've been covering here. Very, very rocky start to the season. Now, if Kazna Crew are falling to such teams as these, it's a grim portent, I guess, for the rest of their season. This is not the first time that we've seen Kazna Crew struggle mid to late season, excuse me, and bring it back. So, I mean, that's the question here as well. Finals are looming. After our Super Week is done, we will only have 2 more weeks of WGLEU before the pre-playoffs start. So this is definitely time for teams to be getting themselves into gear, and Kazna Crew definitely being one of them here. But of course, tonight's matches are going to be very, very interesting ones, Ollie, as well, as we do sort of move our way through this week just a little bit more. But before we do, let's see what the ladder was looking like after last night's stuff, because of course we did have a few changes in the order, but yet Oops still sit up the top.
Yeah, they're just doing amazingly. I mean, this is probably the first time you've ever seen a new team come into the WGL and just go straight to the top. It's unbelievable. It's unheard of. And yeah, okay, they lost to Utopia, but they still got a point on the board. And I felt Utopia, as we said at the beginning, have a kind of counter to their style, their faster style. Tornado, I mean, they've just been pretty good, consistent. Have only lost 1 match so far. They could lose their second one today. And as we go through that board, Kansas coming off 2 losses, as I mentioned, they need to step up. Wombats on Tanks struggled, and they do look a little bit off form, but they are starting to climb that board as well.
So, obviously, Tornado Rocks, like you alluded to earlier on, Oliver, a win here or even a tiebreaker loss will put themselves up into first place on the ladder, both teams with 17 points apiece. So we do still see that everything is very much in a state of stasis. And speaking of tonight's games, before we start to jump headfirst into things as well, Tornado Rocks is playing up first. They'll be going against KNACKERBROD in that first one here. And KB, as a team, very, very quickly, we've seen them with some highs and lows this season so far, but really have yet to solidify their position at the middle or the top of the pack.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like KB's performance for the first half of the season was pretty good. They come into this part and they just lost against OR pretty convincingly. So, I mean, they have some work to do. And against Wombats on Tanks, against Tornado Rocks, they're going to have a really hard time. I mean, Wombats is one of those teams which just seem to get better as they go through the matches. So, yeah, KB could be 3 or 4 rounds ahead, and then they could easily still lose 5-4 or 5-3. So they do need to stay on top of this game.
Be an interesting one there as well. And of course, down the bottom, you did see out of range up against Wombats and Tanks. And then to finish things off, it's going to be Penta Sports going up against Ding. There it is, all there for you. So, I mean, 3 games. I mean, I'd say 2 of them could be in the balance. We've seen what Ding have been able to do in recent times. Out of range as well, getting 2 wins on the trot for them. It's been fairly good, but Wombats and Tanks now definitely poses a real threat. One of their first really, really tough matches of this season, whereas they've been cutting their teeth against mid-table teams for the most part so far.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how they perform there. As I said, I don't think they're particularly on form. I mean, Ding has been fantastic. We'll have to see, but Penn Sports also vying for a place right now for the for the title. I mean, coming off second in the last season, now in 10th place, they need to start to up their game a little bit.
Yeah, some average stuff from them so far. I mean, we do, of course, if you remember the highlight we got to see last night during the break of their game up against Tornado Rocks on Himmelsdorf. So it's clear that there's plenty of tactics going with those guys, but they need to make it work. It's all about the execution more than the idea for them. And of course, Melly, we want to wait till she has finished eating a salad over there. Again, she has the corner of food developed there for a long haul of tanks. Hopefully, we're going to get some of that as well. Let's see, banana there.
Apple,
2 bananas.
Fruit.
Wow, you have
Dates,
so many
fruit.
fruits.
If you want some. But sadly, you have to talk all the time, almost.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a fan of
normally she
bananas
has like
myself.
muffins or croissants or something. Like, why are we healthy all of a sudden, Melly? What's happened?
Well, I don't know.
Just
Felt like a bit of health to it.
sometimes you feel like some chocolate, sometimes you feel
Exactly.
like some fruit.
Well, you have to always keep it in a balance, right? One day you treat yourself with sweets and all, and the other day you have to be kind of healthy.
There's banana apples pretty much got the same amount of sugar in as those
But
croissants
that's
and
a
stuff,
different
so-
kind of sugar. Do I really have to tell you
No,
that?
but it doesn't make any difference. But Karen, sugar
Well,
is sugar.
on the
Well, there's
calorie
fructose and there's
count,
sucrose, let's be
maybe.
real.
yeah, but
But fructose is like one step before sucrose, so your body has to work more to kind
Yeah.
of decipher it.
anyway.
Brilliant. Well, that's a good conversation. Melly, I did want to actually talk to you about what it takes, surprisingly enough. So,
Of course.
as usual,
We can talk about the calorie count of Knackebrod.
We can. Or
nothing
we
else.
can
Or-
talk about the calorie count of Oliver's pre-show meal. 2 chocolate milks and 4 hard-boiled
true.
eggs.
It's not I just have one and I continue eating as I go through.
You
know?
drink so much chocolate milk,
Yeah.
and then you blaming me for 2 apples.
I'm not
Doesn't
blaming
make
you for
sense.
anything.
Makes
It's 2
sense.
bananas
She's
and
feeling
apple.
attacked, Oliver. Okay, you
That's,
keep your
that's
health
my
choices
horse's
over
banana,
here.
to be honest. Look at this, dude. It's
Bet it is.
perfect horsey color.
Horsey colour? Horses
Yeah.
are not yellow.
No.
Are you
I
riding
mean,
camels around?
No.
Or giraffes?
The more brown a banana gets, the sweeter it is. And horses like sweet bananas more than the yellow ones, which are not that sweet. So
Okay.
that's the perfect horse color banana.
I see. So you totally just dumped a horse fact on me there I wasn't even ready for. So I thought it
outside
looks
the
nothing
pharmacy
like
as
a
well.
horse, okay? Anyway, Melly, well, everyone's getting in touch with us now as well, probably telling us how silly we are. But of course, there are many ways to get involved tonight.
That's why they tune in. Come on.
Oh dear.
71% for Tornado at this point, and people, the vote is just up. So head over to facebook.com/WGLEU and get your votes in. The vote will be open for your predictions until the 4th round has been played. So as soon as we head into to our 3rd map, the vote will be closed. So take your chances, get involved, and sometimes it's better to have a wild guess while looking at the results from yesterday. It sure is, right? Just having a wild guess and aiming for the bonus code you might win, because the 3 fastest correct predictions will be rewarded with a bonus code containing a premium tank, gold, some premium days, and of course a garage slot. Another way of getting involved is of course via Twitter. Use the hashtag WGLEU to get involved in discussions that may be already happening. Just search for that hashtag to see what fellow tankies are tweeting. And of course, if you have questions, maybe not about calorie count of some food. Well, I could answer you that, but Ollie and Mitch are waiting for your tank-related questions, because obviously Ollie has no clue about nutrition. But yes, get involved. I'm waiting for your tweets, and of course, you can send us messages, post on our timeline. The comment section is open for you guys. Just head over there. I'm having my eyes everywhere, and also Twitch chat. You're very welcome to chat with us.
All right, so plenty of ways to get involved as well. We'll be obviously checking in with you guys as we do go through the night. So, first game, as we said, an important one here as well for KNACKERBROD. Obviously going up against Tornado Rocks here, properly going up against one of our top table teams here. We've seen them give those top teams a run for their money, generally speaking, but of course, tonight, a big challenge for them as well. So, your Russian-speaking team, Tornado Rocks, have been very, very dominant over the last couple seasons of the WGLEU. We're going to be starting things off on what I would say is honestly a bit of a draw card for KB on Ghost Town here. Generally speaking, I think they've had some decent performances on it recently.
Yeah, I think they can be a good team. I mean, 70% win ratio plus on this map. I think this is definitely the one they can actually step it up and maybe get a couple of rounds over Tornado.
Sure. Well, let's hear what the 2 team captains had to say about this match.
Tornado, this is really one of the tough teams, one of the tough enemies in the league. They're really fast thinking, so we're gonna have to be quick on our feet to beat them.
KB еще одна неизвестная для меня команда, но я думаю, они нас удивят.
Thank you very much, Diodor. Short, sharp, to the point, just like Oliver's head. But we've pretty much nailed it all down now. I mean, both these two teams, even respect coming from the side of Tornado Rocks here as well. But for them, probably just another hurdle on the way towards another finals berth for these guys here as well, especially if we think back to our last season's finals where things, they were definitely tested. Obviously, Rumble in the West, things were a little bit different for them here as well. But I know the crown of the WGL is important for them here, and they'll be battling for it tonight, or at least a part of it, obviously, as Ghost Town kicks off here. I'm interested to see what the tank pick's going to be looking like here as well. We've seen a myriad of different approaches to this map. We've seen, I mean, if you look back to teams that use those heavier takes, we often see the Waffentrager as a take destroyer come in, usually a little bit more here, even at 110 E3 or E4. So not really seeing that right now.
No, I mean, we did get to see the Waffentrager E100, and basically all the Russian teams seem to use that tank on this map regardless. So perhaps not surprising that Tornado's actually picked up this time around, along with, of course, the standard usual suspects of the FE215Bs, Conquerors, and 50Bs. 250 T57 Heavy as well from the side of Tornadoes. Interesting, most teams go for the MX50B, but the Tornado, in my opinion, the T57 a little bit more... I don't know, it's got stronger turret armor, you can bounce more, it's slightly more durable as well, so can work out for you if you do use it correctly.
Alright, so very loudly, of course, the KB pushing out here out of their spawn area, and Crux is going to be out at front as well. Offrey often setting himself up as a Crux for his team strategically speaking. He likes to be the centerpiece player. He likes to at least structure his team around him. So here's those first few blind shots coming out from Tornado Rocks now as well. Maybe anticipating some kind of setup by KB towards that center cap, but they've pretty much gone straight towards the north side here. And Tornado, to be fair, have put a lot of their eggs in towards the middle of the map. And now KB set up on the northern cap.
Yeah, so KB's just going to put the 113, the lower profile tank in the cap. Normally we see the I7, 113 or 416 in there. There's artillery from Tornado Rocks, so like if anything, if yesterday's anything to go by, the artillery will manage to one-shot that 113, but that's slightly more unlikely as, of course, the 416 was in there last time, and that's only got 1,250 HP. So I think Failware's going to be able to get away with this. The first blind shot does come out from the Armageddon. Not finding its mark, just hitting one of the obstacles, and it probably will force Tornado to go forwards, and they have taken the more strategical positions on this map, and KB is just trying to hold the angles.
Well, Force's taking a bit of a beating right now as the first few hits do come flying on in, but Crux, it looks like they haven't counted on FC Dynamo being up on that corner. Crux heavily damaged. They're going to push forward though. Vorsen was quickly taken out of the mix, and Positive as well will be threatened in just a moment. It's Nobody and the Almighty Archer pushing out. They're looking for Positive, and they've done a fair bit of damage, but look at the damage coming back towards Almighty Archer. He gets gunned right on down, but KB still have their health point lead, and they're still bearing down on Tornado Rocks. It's Luciquel and Positive there, the two targets, but a lot of damage being returned now. Tornado Rocks starting to set their feet. They're digging in for the long haul.
Yeah, the Waffentrager Alpha E100 just shot most of its shells. I think it has one or two left, so you have to wait for that one to reload. It's actually going to not have anything there, so right now I think KB can come back in the game.
Tarantula, Bratty, Crux all pushing around this corner here. They might have a pincer set on towards Tornado. Roxy, they still have the health point lead, and Tornado have no choice but to push forward and try and break one of the arms of that pincer, but it's not going to be quick enough. Positive is still caught out. Failware was the one who got the finish there as well. He will drop in a second, but FC Dynamo is a one-shot as well. Tornado Rocks bringing the artillery in here. They have one less combat tank, so to speak, and Luciquel now really has to take the brunt of this one. Armageddon did connect with Pad right there, but he wasn't quick enough to save his tank. And that was Luciquel to drop. Diodor, a one-shot. The Annihilator at 1,245 points of health, but KB looking very, very good here.
Yeah, Diodor's also on reload there, and I think the Annihilator, he could potentially find a couple of these tanks, and to be honest, a lot of the KB tanks are low, but I don't think he's going to be able to do too much more because, well, the whole of KB can reload into HE ammo. They can just penetrate that Waffentrager Alpha 100 in the turret. They can penetrate the M40 as well with HE. So you're talking about 500 damage from those tier 10 tanks.
Yeah, a little bit too easy, I think it may well be, as Tarantula does tempt fate, and the Annihilator takes a shot. He manages to return one in response here, but like you said, no armor ready to speak of on that turret, or no real turret actually. It's a very thin coating of metal there, but the Annihilator can deal with Tarantula. He picks him up. But KNACKERBROD still have the resources to work with here. Bratty rounds the corner. He knows he has to take one shot at least, but that's something he's willing to do as the Armageddon now just sets himself back here. Hopes one shot to finish things off, and he will catch on towards Bratty here as well. He's got 3 very low health tanks. Unfortunately, their 40 M43 doesn't exactly have a stellar fire rate, and as well, in the next few seconds, well, Tornado Rocks and Armageddon especially won't really know where these 3 heavy tanks have moved to. He's going to have to guess, maybe go for a direct fire finish off, but 3 tanks on the cap here with 7 seconds left. Armageddon may not even have the reload to get this done.
No, he probably won't. The game's pretty much over anyway. Even if he gets a reload, he'll be able to reset one of these tanks, but they're all spread out quite nicely across the cap, so should be okay, and it will be KB unbelievably to actually win the first round with only a slither of HP on that total HP bar. A lot of their tanks on one-shots, and that's what it came down to. You had those firefights around the corners. KB, though, they were worried. Hellfish, you saw there just talking in the pre-game interview, that he was worried how quickly Tornado would be reacting, how fast they're going to go in for these things. But it was actually KB the ones to react fastest. They just said, we're going to go forwards. We're going to be making the moves. And they had this set up, one in the standard position, which is the kind of ramp area next to the cap in the north. And they had the tanks around the corner. KB immediately pushed those tanks around the corner, did a good amount of damage. Vorsic went down super quick at the beginning. I think that was probably one of the most crucial kills. And then they all just piled in, and the other tanks flanked around some of the houses, came in behind on Tornado. And the good thing was that instead of just reversing, they actually held their ground and even pushed forward slightly, which allowed the other tanks to simply drive around, have less time to traverse, less distance to traverse, and get on the back of Tornado.
It seems like it's a little bit telegraphed when you pick up that artillery piece here on Ghost Town, because there are some parts of the map that are ideal to be firing at, and there are some that are not. So you can generally guess with a decent amount of confidence where the artillery is going to be used, and as a result, where the enemy team wants you to be. They want you to be in the center in one of those diagonal roads. They know they can get easy hits on you, and you can see here that plenty of damage ultimately was done, but the Annihilator, about a K, more than a K of that damage dealt there means nothing. He was pretty much on his own, him and Armageddon. Armageddon still put 4 shots in as well. Again, three of those shots were useful, one of them wasn't. So for the most part here, to see a Conqueror up the top, at least you can see just how much damage is being shared amongst KNACKERBROD there as well. Pincer maneuver worked pretty well, proactive coming forward. I mean, they knew they had to apply pressure because there was an artillery on the side of Tornado Rocks, but they've done it quite well here. And Tornado had to be careful not to hedge themselves into that situation, or if they're going to do that, they need to know that KB are going to push onto them like that and try and get the overmatch.
Yeah, I think Vorsic obviously got absolutely cancelled out, and you can see there right at the beginning he went down, and I think that's probably the most crucial kill. Him on that corner, when KB just came around, he just got absolutely annihilated. And yeah, I mean, artillery it's always a gamble on any map, but this is a small one, and we haven't really seen a round where it hasn't paid off in terms of the damage output. I mean, we saw 5.1k from HD yesterday. But I mean, it still isn't a tank in the fight. It still isn't HP. It still isn't, an actual vehicle on the battlefield in a brawl, which is of course something you really need. And every artillery player, every team knows that.
Here are your tank selections for game number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty of FE215Bs and an almost identical lineup for Tornado Rocks as what we saw early on. They bring a 416 in here of Luciquel, and on the side of KNACKERBROD here, now defending. Nothing too crazy, except really at 110E5 they're bringing in here. Fairly well-rounded lineup on both sides of things here.
Yeah, pretty good stuff from both teams. The interesting thing is that Luciquel is actually playing that 416, so we have to see if that will actually work out. A lot of these teams send the 416 in that northern cap, puts it in there, wow, Dido just gets absolutely caught out. Once again, he was the second highest damage dealer for Tornado Rocks last time. This time, he does absolutely nothing. And this aggression, the exact same move we saw from Oops yesterday, which worked against Utopia, just worked for KB perfectly. And the Mighty Artor is getting picked up. He does take quite a lot of damage, as obviously KB had to splinter slightly to go with that early aggression. But great, perfect start here for KB. They took down that Batchat, and you can see why they're the better team statistically on this map.
Diodor just struggling to make an impact here at all. Getting taken off the map so early is a bad omen for Tornado Rocks. Now, KB have the leisure, the liberty as a defending team to sit back and allow Tornado Rocks to come to them. It's the Annihilator here in the Waffenträger E100, hoping to make an impact again. again, he does at least have a full clip here, but a lot of the battle is happening without his oversight, and it's Positive getting absolutely smacked there in the middle of the map. Bratty and the Mighty Arturo combining so nicely here. Positive goes down to a one-shot. FC Dynamo in far away either. In fact, it was Tarantula to put one more shot into him to finish him off. Perfect stuff here. Bratty a little bit vulnerable against Positive, but Tarantula makes the right call. He knows his mate is on reload. He comes up and gets a finish himself, and Tornado falling a long way behind already.
Ooh, but look at this Waffentrager. It's just found a perfect angle on the back. Those two should have stayed there, and Tornado Rocks are trying to creep their way back into this game.
And look at the amount of health points they've been able to bring back. Look at all the light red on the side of the scoreboard here. It's a lot of damage coming away, but maybe, just maybe, a little bit too little, too late. The Annihilator forced to back up here as Luciquel being ganged up on by 3 tanks, and even nobody can get involved here. He's going to come back around behind him and finish him off. Beautiful tank the E100 is. We know how much damage it can put across, but the Annihilator just wasn't able to make the shots count in the big picture. The round was already lost before he peeked that corner.
Yeah, the Waffentrager tried to do as much as it could, and it was the highest damage lead in the last round, but you got a 50 seconds reload. You really only realistically have one clip you can use there, and he's going to put himself in the worst position you can go on this map in between those buildings. You can completely cross yourself off, and I believe Tarantula can just come around this corner and kill him, but of course he is very close to being reloaded, and with KB on the defensive side, they can just keep the Annihilator in this position, don't have to worry about anything, and just run the clock down.
Thing is, right, if a KV tank pushes himself up into that little mound and tries to take on the Annihilator, and the Annihilator per se kills them, well, no one can really pass through there anymore. So the Annihilator just literally sits amongst that square of houses and waits for 6 minutes and 50 seconds to time out. He knows that's a stupid idea, so do we. So he comes forward and meets his fate, and they get it all over and done with. And it's a very, very quick ghost town there as well. It was Knackebrod winning the round, if you guys were wondering, as we did see the defense hold strong for them. Again, their win rate is pretty much preserved. Coming in here as well, picking that one up against Tornado Rock. So that's a damn good start for them here, up against arguably one of our top teams in the league.
Yeah, KB really seemed to be on form. I mean, they had that game against Out of Range where they were just completely off, and we saw some, do you know our tactics? Do you know our playbook? But obviously there, we saw a much better game from KB. They really had a good idea how they wanted to play, and they were just playing against Tornado Rocks' playstyle, where they're being super aggressive, always thinking fast on their feet, and just going in for these engagements. And I really like that beginning move. We have seen it before, but sending the 50B straight down, you just about have the reload. You can blast down that bat chat real quick. And I kind of felt like Tornado should maybe have sent the 416, a tier 8 tank instead of a tier 10 down there. But they do decide to go for that tier 10. And as soon as he fell, I mean, there's really no way Tornado could have won that game, or it would have been very hard at least. But again, you can see how effective that Waffentrager is on this map. 3,525 damage.
Again, Crux melding himself into the centerpiece here for Knackerbrod's strategy. 4,400 damage dealt in total, which is pretty darn good for those 10 shots. It means he's not bouncing any of them, if I'm not mistaken here. Maybe one amongst those 10. I'm looking through the average damage here as well. But it's definitely getting some good damage done across the board here. And, I mean, as we go on towards the next map, Tornado Rocks definitely have to pull their socks up. I feel like, as we move forward towards Himmelsdorf, KB can sort of go with a very similar paradigm and a similar approach here. Yes, it's a different map, but a lot of these ideas are the same. I mean, we know these two maps being maps that you can get those flanks, those local overmatches, or those overmatches in those small areas, and you can sort of pull the wool over your opponent's eyes here. It seems like Knackebrod and Oliver have prepared for this, at least on their map. We're going to have to see how this translates across here. But even on those lower damage dealers there, you can see a lot of, in fact, almost all of KB's players with plus 1k damage, all doing it pretty solidly here now. Himmelsdorf will be a very, very telling sign if Ghost Town wasn't already.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, 2 city maps back to back. Of course, the Russian team's known as the kind of Himmelsdorf masters. So let's see if that translates into a couple of rounds for Tornado. I mean, KB's track record is pretty bad. You're talking about 25, 28% win ratio on this map, and Tornado about 75, 76%. So they are obviously the superior team. And yeah, okay, the principles are similar on city maps, but everyone knows Himmelsdorf off by heart, and Tornado probably has more experience. So it's going to be an interesting one. We do have Tornado on the attack first, so they've got the harder side to begin with.
Well, let's see how it all works out. You've seen the tank picks now, and have to see how the rubber does hit the road, or the tracks, I guess, at the tiles. As Armageddon does make his way up on towards the hill, it's just a couple of tanks towards the hill for Tornado Rocks here, and nobody Far from that, in fact, as being an important part of Knackebrod here. We'll be pushing down with 1390 into that little hidey hole. Doesn't have as much protection as maybe an IS-3 would if he went down there. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's just going to get the spot across there. He's going to find positive and actually just backs away a bit too soon and doesn't find anything there. The Armageddon gets spotted on the hill, but he's pretty safe considering it's such a low-profile tank, and it's just going to be a bit of a back and forwards between these two teams. I mean, Tornado's been that team who likes to play more standard. Himmelsdorf, they're not really the team that plays super aggressive and you know, goes charging off the hill like we do see a lot of these teams, you know, pushing down the 8-0 line with E100s, or like we saw yesterday, 913s or 113s even, pushing down the 8 line, pushing down the banana, and just going for that. But look at that beautiful HE shell straight onto the top of nobody.
Yeah, that's going to be tough here. Nobody's going to be challenged from the top of that hill. Oh, my mic sounds a bit interesting here, Ollie. I might pass to you for just a sec and let you take things from here as nobody has to get out of that hole.
I think Lauren just probably wrecked your mic yesterday. The Annihilator, though, with a great shot. Where did that come from? Somewhere from the hill, I believe, yeah. He actually came from the hill, so great shot through the buildings, straight onto the MX-3090. He doesn't really get much better shooting than that. Wish we had first person so we can actually have a look back at that one, or just even have a first person's perspective of it. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to make it harder for KB, right? I mean, the 1390 is always an important tank on this map, just to get those angles, to get the extra angles which aren't always thought about by the other team. And that's going to pay off dividends for Tornado Rocks if they continue.
Well, let's see. I'm back, I think, for the most part. Everyone's going to be freaking out now. Sorry about the harm that would have caused to your ears. 7 minutes and 45 seconds left in the round, having already lost nobody as he did push up into that G3 position. KB have to now work with whatever else they have. And I blame Lauren for messing up my microphone last night. Shame. Shame on you, Lauren. Failware will be watching over towards the hill as well here, so KB just taking it slow. The fact is that they are the defending team, so they have some time to work with here, but Tornado Rocks are getting in position. They're working those FE215Bs up on towards the hill to prepare for a push down. They do have Armageddon playing forward as well. You can see here the FE215Bs, you know, not the highest alpha damage coming away from these tanks, but the fire rate is what makes them truly incredible. And we'll have to see what they can do when they can all get those guns pointing in the right directions, or at least all at targets of some sort. Even the E100 Waffentrager to join them up on the hill. So here we go. You can see them working up here past the hill. All straight up. And if you didn't know what I was talking about, then that's a good way to illustrate it. So we'll have to see if Tornado Rocks actually can break through this setup for KB. It doesn't really look like a watertight one, if I'm honest here. KB, a little bit of light on. Couple tanks over towards D3 and D4, so they need to be brought back towards the rest of the formation to assist here, and this is going to start to become a very complicated diagram, but you get what we're trying to show you.
It's going to be a strange one though for Tornado, because obviously they don't know the IS-4 is there, although, you know, you pick an IS-4, you use it for side scraping, reverse side scraping, so it's always hard for a team to get past that IS-4, right? So, I mean, it's going to basically force KB to come charging around that corner. And looking at their lineup, it's going to be just a match of who can actually exchange better. And maybe with Crux in that bat chat, once he shoots all 5 shells, it's going to be hard for him to help his team. Whereas you got Tornado Rocks with the faster firing autoloaders of 50Bs, the 50B just to be there instead, which of course will be a better DPM in general. So, in my opinion, Tornado would be better in the brawl situations as long as Crux doesn't get two autoloading clips out.
We'll have to wait and see if he can even get to where the fight is, Oliver, because at the moment he's still at K8 and making his way towards the top side of the map. I dare say he'll go for a flank, but he will have Diodor to deal with up on the hill, which would be absolutely devastating. So Tornado look to want to put Diodor back towards the middle of the map here for whatever reason. They want to just work with this force for the moment, which is mostly, of course, those FE215Bs. There's a Waffentrager as well, and Crux better get the heck out of dodge. Did he just bounce a E100 shot?
Yeah, I mean, we saw that yesterday as well. We saw two bounces from 113s, 340 around there, 330 penetration onto the Batchatch turret. Like, that thing is super bouncy for some reason.
That's
sometimes.
Bizarre.
It's like the LTTB. Theoretically, doesn't have a lot of armor.
Well, Diodor now trying to hunt Crux down, and Crux actually going to go on reload here, and you can see by that he doesn't actually want to take a fight against Diodor, and nor should he want to either.
What a
Now,
hit
this
shot.
this little engagement here between the Batchat and the Waffentrager RV100 actually has drawn Tornado Rocks down towards the 8 line a little bit further. They haven't made a direct push for the cap, point number 2 in the north. Taking it slow here as they fire across the square.
Yeah, strange stuff from both teams. But you can see KB are just not winning those exchanges. Tornado Rocks like 3,000 hit points ahead without the game having really started yet. So they got to be careful. And Tarantula was on that corner, and he still lost out the exchange to a very good hip shot from one of the players from Tornado. So yeah, I mean, right now Crooks is going to be going 1 versus 1 against the Waffentrager, who you might think is actually a little bit further away than he actually
going to get
is.
smashed.
Oh, but he's actually the highest damage dealing player in the whole league, Crooks.
Well, not today, Oliver, or at least not in this particular round. He has had some good ones in the past, but he allowed himself to get gunned down. Maybe not realizing that Diodor had company, but doesn't really matter now as those 2 high DPM tanks aren't really in the mix so far. They can threaten there from J3, shooting up towards the northern side, and this is now going to force and Dynamo across the field here. They're going to try and encircle Knackebrod. It's like a 5k hit point lead. That's a big hit towards Armageddon. He's taken quite low, not quite finished off yet, as he did try and cross riskily that little road.
Yeah, so Tornado Rocks, right, they can basically do whatever they want. It looks like they'll push through into the D line, take care of Tarantula, who was on about half HP.
It's almost impossible to lose the game from here now if you're Tornado Rocks. Maybe time might be one factor here, but if they're quick about these next few shots, it won't be a problem. It's Vorsen and FC Dynamo. One more shot will deal with Tarantula, who really hasn't been able to answer back with too much damage at all. And that's been the story of pretty much this entire round from KNACKERBROD. They've just allowed Tornado Rocks to come off the hill and do whatever the heck they want. Pattern Failware hoping to gang up on the Annihilator here, who is just reloading this one shot. He'll fire that one back towards Pattern Connect. And the slower firing IS-4 is going to have to wait his darn turn. He will at least get the finish, but then Diodor coming around the corner as well. Both those heavies just want to pull the heck out of there as well, and they know what this tank can do to him, and I don't think they have any choice now. Diodor firing forward here. He'll take one shot, he'll take a second here as well. He goes low, still has about 1,200 points of damage left to let go. And 2 minutes and 35 seconds left. Bratty will fall foul of Armageddon here as well. No armor to speak of. An easy target for 1390.
I'm quite impressed that KB actually managed to get back into this game, considering they lost the Batchat. They did better than Tornado did when they lost the Batchat, so no disrespect to them at all. And yeah, it's Failware left on, you know, a decent chunk of hit points, but against 5 players of Tornado, he's really not going to stand any chance. And yeah, it's just going to be the cleanup crew from the old Tornado boys.
Now Loose Quell's going to waltz on in there and get the finish. He has 4 shots to let rip. It's going to take slightly more than that, but he has Diodor to help out as well, probably just for the Ram at this stage, and he does go in, and there's not a lot of damage at all from the Ram, only 5.
Pretty light tank.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I don't know, maybe the speed probably didn't really help things out at all, but they'll be able to gang up on Failware. And this round, one of the longest one we've actually had in a while, is KB just trying to hold on for dear life, but it will ultimately be Failware facing the firing squad to make this one 2-1 in favour of KNACKERBROD. We did say Ghost Town was quite a stunning performance here from KB. Himmelsdorf was always going to raise some questions, especially up against Tornado Rocks. And as we've said, you know, these Russian-speaking teams generally very, very strong on these maps as they are their preference. So we'll have to see now how KB recovers from that one. But, I mean, they lost a lot of resources pretty early on there, Ollie.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the first thing to mention, of course, is the exchanges. It didn't go well for them at all. They lost their MX-3090 to a fantastic shot from the Annihilator as he was trying to skip out of that 3-line position. So that wasn't good. That's already 1.1k HP down the drain in the tier A tank. And then they started to lose some of these, I don't know, like cross-field shots. They lost another 1,000, 2,000 hit points there. And then the really quick reactions from Tornadors to push down the 8 line. You had the consistent, unusual thing to do in World Tanks, of course, is to chase. Normally, better players don't chase. They get to a point where they say, it doesn't make any sense for us to continue. But Tornadoes pursued the Batchat. They got control of that 1-3 line, and then they found the Batchat. Basically, Crooks handed himself on a silver platter. He went down. That's game over, basically.
Always dangerous when you're seeing FE215B firing 14 or 20 shots even. Seeing as the average damage is fairly low, we can probably conjecture that maybe half of those were actually penetrating hits, but that's often the case in that particular tank. But the Annihilator and Dynamo having a lot of time to fire them through. Failware getting some damage done, but also, mind you, probably about a K of that was to no avail, really, by the time the game was over.
He did almost average. 440 is the average.
Yeah, I mean more than towards the end of the game when it was already lost, I think. I mean, we won't see the Batchat here on the first page either, of course, as Crux either best player on his team or the first to die here. So you be the judge of what exactly that means. You
Yeah,
can
I mean,
see him a
like,
bit further down
the dude
here.
is at the top of the damage board on Hall of Fame. Like, he is right at the top. But we have seen some of the worst play from him. I mean, remember that Ghost Town match we had from KB? I'm not sure exactly who they were playing, but yeah, I mean, that was super bad. So
Well, yeah,
sometimes brilliant, sometimes not, but I guess that's good.
you got to make up your own mind. Would you rather be just average or sometimes great, sometimes crap?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you have to decide between, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way it goes. Now, after that one, I mean, going on to our next Himmelsdorf round here, KB obviously need to make some sort of response. They're going to be on the attacking side now as well, Oliver. They're bringing a TVP in, just the one here. Teams no longer so excited about that particular Czech tank. Again, the FE215B stack is a common trend for Tornado Rocks here. A couple of 50Bs and a Waffentrager E100 in there as well. So we're really seeing those big tier 10 tank destroyers getting at least one spot in a lot of these teams, especially on defensive sides.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, as we've seen already, basically every round, it's just a really good tank to have, especially if you know how to play it. You need to have some sort of support there. You could see how the Waffentrager wanted to have the 50B with him, just to make sure you have that continuous fire from a faster autoloader. And it's also a tank that can keep up with it. But for me, the attacking round's always the better round from a team. I mean, I feel like when you're the defensive round, regardless of the map, basically, well, obviously not regardless, but most maps, you have a kind of standard set players. Nobody actually found the Annihilator, and Lucic receives one shell, gets away with the second and third.
Should be happy about that, actually. The amount of information you can gain, and even some damage back towards Diador. Look at the spots. 4 tanks there spotted over on that western side, and some free early damage towards Diador is always a good sign for KNACKERBROD, even if it is nobody getting slapped. I mean, playing those low-tier tanks is quite often the same sort of situation. Got to be careful how far forward you go. Crux, of course, last round falling foul of that exact adage. But this time, in the TVP, he's actually going to go for a reload here, but he took a couple shots from the top of the hill. Doesn't look like he connected any, but we can see what his idea is going to be.
Didn't he connect it onto Diador?
I thought there was a shot coming in from one of the other tanks towards the south, maybe in Batchat or an FV.
Yeah, it probably was, yeah. One of those
Tarantula.
high-hitting tanks. Yeah. So, I mean, a good start for KB. You can't really argue. I mean, yeah, it's a common tactic for most defensive teams to go from the 1 to 3 line and push all the way down. So that's standard. But, I mean, it's really up to KB to make the move and try something new or just win the game against Tornado. Now, they have the IS-7 creeping down towards the 8 line, and all the tanks are there. Of course, we're waiting for Nobody and the TVP. I think that's the name, X50B as well, up on the hill, who will, no, they don't have a 50B, Batchat even, sorry. They'll push off the hill down and go towards the 8A line, and to be honest, it's going to work out well for them. You can see Crux is spotting Vorsic. They can see that Tornado Rocks don't have an IS-4, so they can deduce that probably they won't be able to be sitting in A7 particularly effectively, and they don't even have an IS-7, so I think they're going to go for the standard AMX 3090 just behind that corner capping. And then the rest set up in defensive lines with the Batchat in behind on the hill to provide support.
His 3090 is going to be very, very important in the next few moments, as Armageddon, of course, being the opposite number to Nobody on scout duty here. And the moment he's going to be pretty careful because he will find himself, well, confronted by a lot of big tanks. He has no idea what is hiding on the other side of that street. We can see, of course, the convoy of heavy tanks moving forward. But see, the entirety of Tornado don't know until Lucy gets spotted, and he does take a little bit of damage here. The first salvo, really only one hit actually connecting. But now the battle lines are drawn. Both teams know that they are set up. And Tornado Rocks here as well. Going to have to pull back here because if they lose too much here in the south, they won't be able to defend anything to the north if it were to happen. But it looks like KNACKERBROD want to take the fight to Tornado.
I think actually KB got the timing slightly off there. If they'd wait another 10 seconds, those 50Bs would have just pushed around the corner. They would be able to absolutely obliterate them. And also the fact that they didn't really hit the hip chops. Only one of them managed to connect. And Fairwear won't be out. Oh, he just about finds that shell onto Armageddon actually. Just a below average roll, and yeah, so that's a good start for KB. I mean, they're winning every single kind of angle they're actually pushing and pursuing right now. They won at the beginning with the shells onto the 1 to 3 line, but the Annihilator's going to be able to connect at least one shell onto Paddy, but it only hits the bottom of that track.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 shots, 3 shots now not actually connecting. He's got 1 shot left, and well, his second actually thudded straight in towards the carriage. Of course, he's trying to fire in between those those tracks, those, I don't know, railway carts, I guess you could say, but when you hit it, you get that explosion like that. So, you know when he's missing it, obviously he can't always pick that gap perfectly. There's going to be a bit of RNG involved with his shot coming through, as Brady himself has just discovered. So, team's just tentatively trying to duel out over that part of the map, and Brady does know that Positive wants to push that corner on him, but he's going to hold his ground for now as well. Tornado know that they need to keep something back in reserve, Oliver, for any sort of push that might come towards North, but this might leave them reluctant to commit the required amount of resources to the fight. As it starts to occur, we see the teams getting positioned in this bottom corner.
Yeah, so I mean, if KB just push on these tanks, of course there's going to be the Waffentrager there and the FE2 on 5B. I believe the ones in the north are all kept under control by nobody in that AMX 3090, but he is down to 302 hit points, so a one-shot. And Fairway actually goes for the peak, receives a lot of damage, and indeed Tarantula does as well.
Yeah, big mistakes here. 2k health points already lost by KNACKERBROD in the last couple of seconds, and that might be enough to do them in here. Pad just gets completely bursted down as well. We saw about 2100 shaved off of him. And Crux as well. He's on fire. Well, that just makes things even worse here for KNACKERBROD, as they just got pretty much chunked down by 5k hit points. You cannot win a peak engagement any harder than Tornado Rocks just did then. They had full control of the 2 line, and of course those tank destroyers able to fire straight down them, and so Mighty Archer can't even find a safe haven behind that building. He's got Luciquel on his right, who's still reloading and getting his track fixed, but it's going to be too little too late again. Tornado Rocks are just going to crush KB here.
Yeah, this is going to be an easy game for Tornado. They're so far far ahead in the HP, and I feel again, you know, the overestimation of the power of the FE2 on 5B. You know, great tank in general, but I see so many times these teams pushing around the corners with them and then getting double tracked because there's 2 tanks there. They use one repair kit, but then they immediately get tracked again, and still their turret's behind an obstacle, so they can't shoot back. So I think the team should probably move away from the FE2 on 5B. Just for the fact that, you know, they think they're the best players in the world, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and, you know, you can only repair your tracks once if you have one repair kit, so sometimes you just get caught out. And I think we've seen that too many times in the last, let's say, 3 match days. So maybe the IS-4 is a good idea, maybe T110E5, maybe something they should be looking at, which is slightly easier to navigate your way out those situations. But yeah, I mean, KB just pushed straight into where Tornado Rocks was sitting.
Yeah, and they had the complete and utter setup there, already waiting for KB to push on into it. I mean, we talked about the FE2 on 5B. It's actually more of a nuanced tank than it might seem. You talked about it a few times. The fire rate is good, but you need to know where to shoot. Here in this format as well, when you do have tier 10 tanks, armor is far more important than it used to be. Even with players firing gold all the time, you still need to be careful about where you're shooting towards here. So 2 and 2 here. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are here, Ollie. I mean, it's been pretty back and forth here, and both teams winning their maps 2-0. I mean, the problems we started to see from Tornado in that first map, are we seeing them sort of being dealt with here properly, or maybe it's just a different scenario in which they're able to thrive?
Yeah, I felt like they just had a better idea of what to do on Himmelsdorf. And I felt like KB just kind of floundered on Himmelsdorf a bit. I mean, they didn't need to lose that defensive round. They were just careless. They lost too many exchanges. Crooks, the team captain, just threw himself into the flames, and that's going to lose you the game. And here, when they were on the attack, they just pushed into exactly where Tornado wanted them to be. They didn't consider that AMX 3090 behind the cap, just sitting there. You know, we've seen, for instance, Wombats and Tornado being on the attack, pushing around that corner, doing great damage and winning the game. But that's against lesser teams and teams without all their tanks in that 1-3 line, which, you know, yeah, okay, that MX 3090 wasn't, but basically all of them were there. Nobody did 0 damage. Paddy only got 1 shot. He got absolutely obliterated there around that corner. So a pretty one-sided affair, about 6k HP in favor of Tornado. And, you know, as you said, 2 for 2. I mean, both teams just thriving on the maps which they clearly preferred and where the statistics lie. And now moving on to Prokhorovka.
Things clearly going catastrophically wrong there as well for a few of those lower-end tanks on the side of KB. Crux brought himself off the hill in the TVP. He was set on fire pretty quickly, and that is a good metaphor for how the performance of KB went in that last map. But, of course, we're moving on in just a second. But before we do, we're checking in with Melly, because I've already seen Twitch chat fairly active at the moment, of course, as KNACKERBROD always brings their Kappa, what's it? Kappa Pride fans.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I always see the same.
07s with KB in the middle.
That's like Kappa Pride, pretty much, and
Yeah.
it's called KNACKERBROD because obviously that's an insult to them.
KNACKERBROD.
Yeah, I think that Someone misspelled it at some point, so it's stuck with it. As Twitch chat is, right, guys? So you have no mercy. We know that, but looking on the vote, it's still 71% for Tornado Rocks. And if we look close on all the predictions you guys sent to us, it's very widespread. So we have a lot of 5-0s on both sides, but we have a lot of 5-4s as well on both sides. And a lot of 5-3, 5-2s in the middle as well. So it seems like the community can't really pin it down on score-wise at least, but they expect Tornado to win. Well, the performance on the first map wasn't really good. I mean, 2-0. And then climbing back up onto even. Well, let's see how it goes. I guess the community can't really decide, as it seems. Well, as in a swarm.
Feels like the brain versus the heart situation here in the community.
Absolutely.
Brain with Tornado Rocks, heart with KB.
Yeah, that's true.
Stomach with KB, depending on how you're feeling right now. I mean, you could have brought some of that in, Melly. We could at least have eaten that. But
I'm not a fan of that dry bread.
We like the Wasser things.
Knackebrod.
Like,
Yeah, that's Knackebrod.
The one that says like milk on there. I always look at them like milk, milk, brot, milk. I love that.
You're the only one who does that.
When my brother came to Germany, and I told him what brot was. He loved it. He thought it was hilarious, and he's like, "Hey Mitch, can I have some brot?" I'm like, "You want some bread?"
I find
like,
everyone who
brot?
moves over to Germany just does that for the first few weeks.
Yeah.
Just like say every German word with like an accent. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun.
Schmetterling.
We have fun. Schmetterling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
too.
you like overemphasize and pronouncing it, like, but it's fun. It's fun to see you. Yeah. Oh,
It's
really?
not like the British get that all the time. Would you like a cup
Oh,
of
really?
tea? Yeah, I would actually. So next.
Brilliant comeback. Do you want a cup of tea? Yes, that would be good. Moving on.
Sorry, we didn't have any. We got coffee. So I think you should leave, to be honest.
Well, we have a tea bar in our office at least, so you can visit us anytime. Yeah. Well, in our room, yeah.
All right.
We do
I'll
have
go.
a
Oh,
kettle.
I didn't know that.
I learned that it's a kettle,
Yeah, kettle.
not Wasserkocher.
Wasserkocher, yeah.
Kettle.
Yeah. Water cooker.
That
I mean, it
word
makes
I
sense,
like,
but-
for example, kettle.
Yes. Simple
Oh,
as
well.
that.
Yes.
It's like Kessel chips. Isn't that a thing?
Yeah,
Kettle
kettle
chips.
chips.
Kettle.
Yeah,
Oh.
but it's just they cook it in oil
Yeah.
chips.
Okay.
Hand cooked chips.
Hand cooked it in oil.
Yeah.
Let's leave
Literal.
it there, ladies
Well,
and
the
gentlemen.
Let's
vote
just
is
end this
closed,
here.
sadly, but you can still get in your predictions via Twitter by using the hashtag WGLEU, or if you have questions, if it's about kettle chips or about the game, find them right away. Always happy to answer them. And of course, don't forget to follow our Twitch channel for next time already, which is tomorrow. So you get a notification as soon as we go live again. But luckily, it's not over yet. Am I right?
No,
Today's
halfway
not
through
over yet.
No, we're halfway through today, and we're about almost halfway through the Super Week.
Yes.
So 40% done, I reckon.
Exactly.
35.
And, over the halfway point of the season already.
Yeah, so by the time we get through the week, you guys will know pretty much where all the teams are at. We're going to know how the season's going to finish, and you're going to know how many times Oliver's been fired from his job already. So there's a lot of information coming at you, so just prepare yourselves here. The next map, Prokhorovka, of course. Nice little bit of a change from our cityscapes here. We do see the tank picks coming in. And again, nothing really that interesting here, Ollie. I mean, it's always interesting, but we see a bat channel at least for KB and a TVP. I'd say they're still sticking there with that one here. No surprise. I'd say Crux probably driving that one.
Yeah, so we've got an IS-7 as well, and it's been a long time since we just had two teams with just medium tanks. I mean, if you hark your minds back to 754 and Season 5 and Season 1, like, Prokhorovka was just a brawl in the middle, and like whoever came away the better would be the ones who obviously won the map. Now these days it's more of a 742 style where one team goes left, the other team goes right, and that's more of what we see. So we're going to see Tornado Rocks just head straight into the middle, surge into the middle with their medium tanks, probably going to head across those train tracks in F6 and just get control of that second cap. Of course, they are on the attack, and it will be KB on the defense.
Positive going to make his way in towards the middle of the map now, and it'll be Luciquel actually a little bit further than him. So Tornado not wanting to fight over the train line here as well, but Luciquel's been caught out in a bit of a crossfire, and he will be taken down very, very quickly. However, Tornado Rocks are quick to act here. That won't be their downfall, just having lost that one tank. But so far, they just seem to have huddled up here. They might even cross the train line and go for a bit more of a defensive setup. Having lost that 251 is a big blow.
I'm pretty surprised. I mean, And maybe the idea from... Ooh, they actually Armageddon gets spotted. I believe Bratty in the back chat's actually got coated optics or binocular telescope or both. I mean, yeah, the interesting thing for Tornado is that they send the RU-25 on the middle to scout and maybe to bait some shots out and actually hit some tanks of KB. But what actually happened, he got killed and they received the damage. And KB is pretty much safe. But of course, the difference is KB are not in the best positions. They are on the defensive side. They don't really have control of the second cap. They need to send that IS-7 across the middle. They need to have support, but they've done it very quickly. I mean, within first 1.5 minutes of the game, and Tornado Rocks knows that if they go for the one-on-one peaks, they are down 2,000 hit points. They will lose.
So I think they've decided something here because Tornado Rocks pulled back over the train line. Now they've gone back forward. Here is nobody. Well, he's going to be caught out as well, almost cancelling out the advantage that KNACKERBROD got from killing Luciquel. They still have a marginal health point lead, but they lost that tank very, very quickly. Good response there from Tornado there, spotting out the tank on his own.
Really good stuff. I mean, the thing is, we've seen before, like the RU-25 on and the back chat being able to sneak into that G area when a team on the attack tries to get control of the middle. So when nobody gets taken out, thanks to a really quick attack from Tornado, that cancels out that, and it keeps Tornado in this game.
Positive, though, taking a little bit of damage. You can see the traces, a lot of shots coming across the map, and well, KNACKERBROD, providing that they keep Bratty fairly healthy up in that corner, they have a multitude of different angles here at which to fire at Tornado Rocks. They now move, though, towards a bit of a defilade. At that E and F3 line, there is a little bit of a valley that they can hide in, but it's unlikely most of their team are there, and you can see the damage still coming through. The Annihilator now is being subject here, 968 health. Now, Positive knows he needs to deal with Bratty. He was a very, very important part here in the north. Now, he'll take a few shots here. In fact, they've even committed FC Dynamo to that one as well. So Bratty will have to fall here, and that's an excellent response. Tornado Rocks, they're putting out fires here, left, right, and center. Yeah,
very careless there from Bratty, I have to say. I mean, that's a really... And Tarantula now is also going to die. I mean, this is just terrible play from KB right now. They were so far ahead at the beginning of this game, and then Bratty was sitting further into the middle of the road, so he didn't even have a bush, so he got actually spotted early. And Tarantula decided to drive in the middle of Prokhorovka and get absolutely annihilated down to about 1.5k HP. So yeah, KB is just on the throw train right now.
Tarantula there as well. He obviously not in all his good books right now, having taken a heck of a lot of damage, and Tornado Rocks bring things back under their control, even after losing a full tank early on. And this is what a good team is going to be able to do. KNACKERBROD also, to be fair, have fed themselves, or Tornado, a fair share of those hit points to gobble right on up, and they've made good with them as well. 6 tanks still standing for the boys in yellow and grey, and KNACKERBROD only with 5 themselves. Tarantula super low, goes for a peak here as well, unsurprisingly, given the way the last part of his round has played out. But look at this. Positive going to try and get up behind here as well. He has a rock for cover. He has been spotted, but he's just getting so much information here. Failware gets smacked up as well. Tornado Rocks now look like they want to close the trap.
Yeah, they can easily win this game. They're 3,000 hit points ahead. They can push on to basically whoever they want. Positive's going to be able to peek here from 2 angles as Tornado Rocks is just pounding KB.
Yeah, Positive going out through his 3rd shot, and he won't need too many more here to have Almighty Archer wrapped on up. It's 1 shot here, and FC Dynamo does get the finish here, but Pad now is going to present himself as the target. Tornado Rocks with 6k health left to 2 tanks remaining on KB, and again, the push in is going to come pretty strong. It's going to be Pad and Crux off in the distance as well. KNACKERBROD have, well, they've expended any advantage they've had. They've squandered it. They've leaned up against the wall and just let it go, as FC Dynamo is going to crash in towards Crux and pick him up here. This is going to put Tornado Rocks up in towards the lead now as they go towards the defensive side of Prokhorovka. Was it a matter of Tornado winning that round or KB losing it for themselves there? Because so many times our turning points came when a mistake was made by a KNACKERBROD player.
Well, I felt the biggest point, which was Tornado decided to get out of that eastern village, which I think a lot of teams don't do. They sit in that eastern village and they get picked apart. But as soon as Tornado saw that KB was pushing from the west to the east, they immediately pushed down the lower side and they caught out nobody. If nobody had stayed alive, it could have been a different game. I mean, that's just one of the factors. And then you had Bratty all the way in A1, A2 maybe. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be game over. Like, when you play on that eastern side, or western side of the map, that tree road, you always get control of it before you do anything else on the map. And they also changed it, so now it's actually on a kind of a hill, that road, so you can hide behind it, especially with the Object 140s, which of course was sent alongside that bat shot. So pushing in, Bratty wasn't even in the bush. He got taken out real quick, and he tried to cross the road instead of fighting for it, just like Kazna did against Utopia, against Synergy yesterday. and maybe getting a bit too big for their own pants. Tarantula as well decided to peek in the STB, got cancelled out really quick. And I just felt like Tornado made the initial move, which won them the game, but KB were just feeding them HP continuously. And, that's despite the fact that they got an early advantage with that RU-251 going down and also doing some great damage at the beginning.
We're starting to see a worrying trend develop as well, is that when in losing rounds for KB, we're seeing their captain, of course, Crux, having pretty much no impact. I mean, this time he got a little bit of damage across the line here, but in rounds that KB lose, it's Crux that is either going down early or not being able to make a big difference across the map. Even in the TVP, we have seen how much damage it can do. Unfortunately, this time for Crux, pretty average. I mean, the real culprits, like you said, were Tarantula. Nobody did get caught out in the open, and the Almighty Archer as well. You saw him getting caught there around the corner by Diodor or one of the bat chats that came through from Tornado Rocks there. So KB now, I mean, it's getting a bit serious here. If they lose this one, and I'm pretty sure this is Tornado's map, by the way. You get to pick the second and third map, I think, is the way it goes.
So you ban 2 between the map picks.
The thing is, the pressure gets put on you now as the team picking last because you have to have a perfect last map. Otherwise, it is going to be a Tornado Rocks game. Tornado Rocks win here, which they're looking like they might do. They're looking pretty darn strong. They can transition. They'll be on match point, Oliver. They're going to be bringing the TVP... No, 3 TVPs, yeah, and an RU-251. So I don't know why it says a VTU concept there. It's not quite right. As you see here, nothing too crazy, but a lot of TVPs. I guess that's something worth noting.
Well, the VTU concept is on like the one down from the list, so I guess whoever filled it in just clicked on the wrong one. So maybe that's the reason, but it will be TVPs as you mentioned. And yeah, I mean, is KB a team which can actually come back from these deficits and throwing 2 rounds, one on Himmelsdorf and one on Prokhorovka, or the team just going to lose this one straight out? They've honestly been the better team in some of these rounds, and more than half, I would say. Tornado Rocks are not really providing that great. Tactics, yes, okay, their individual skill, they don't seem to miss a single peak or miss a hit shot, but it only counts for so much as that we've got nobody in a not entirely unusual random battle position or whatever team Clan Wars position, but for 768, it's always interesting.
This is strange though, and Luciquel still hasn't spotted those tanks right in the back corner as well. Those TVPs all waiting to spring out and do some damage. Plenty of bushes in front of him. Luciquel doesn't quite have a line of sight as well, importantly enough. An interesting setup here for KB as they do try and make something happen on the attacking side. They can see Luciquel, so they know he's there. And you can see just how nervous they have been about this now, about being spotted by that 251. Because once that happens, these TVPs are going to be caught a little bit away from the IS-7 in the middle.
The whole time. Like, as soon as he's moving, his
camera ratings has gone.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I see a lot of good players, regardless how many experience they have, is they're always moving in caps. It's not hard to hit a tank. It's a tank. And shooting's not necessarily the skill in this game. Just stay still, avoid the spotting checks. You have a better chance of survival. And I feel that's definitely a skill which a lot of players need to learn. And nobody's actually creeping his way up. So far, he's unspotted, but Dynamo's there as well.
Well, here comes the push here now as KNACKERBROD's TVPs have gained enough information maybe to have confidence about moving forward. And FC Dynamo in that defilade actually a little bit on his own at this stage. Now, they could pounce on him, or is there a more important target for KB? That remains to be seen as FC Dynamo. No, looks like he'll be the first target. Only 1 of 3 hitting now. The damage starting to come through. That's what the TVPs can do for you. They quickly eliminate those enemy tanks, but Tarantula almost letting himself fall in response. Luciquel can actually get the finish on him if he's not careful. This is not ideal for KNACKERBROD. They do get Dynamo, but they have to trade 1 for 1 for that. When they spring the trap and they've gone to so much effort to make this one work, they still lose Tarantula in the process. A lot of damage taken by him. Vorsen at least punished by the IS-7, but Pad is still lit, so is Crux, and now these TVPs are running for the hills. And
also that KB was just missing so many shots on the sides. I mean, Tornado Rocks is in the middle of the map, and all those tanks sitting in the eastern side of it just weren't doing any damage, and this is where Tornado Rocks are winning this game so far.
Oh dear. Pad now is going to try and return some damage, and he does. Positive takes a couple of hits there, but Vorsen and Luciquel are waiting for Pad to overcommit to that hill before they just fill him with lead and actually take him out now. So pretty much in the balance still. You will notice that as an extra tank up for Tornado Rocks here is nobody actually went down as well. I didn't point that out. That is an important loss here. And it's the second time KB have lost him pretty much too early, I'd like to think. especially as Luciquel still standing on the side of Tornado Rock. So if you die before your opposite number, generally not a good thing. But here's Brady in a decent position. He's set up on the railroad. He's not being looked at. He's not being shot at. And he gets free damage if he can connect these shots. That third one not connecting. There's that fourth there. So it's still damage going across the line. Bar humbug, Ollie. Now his pad will be caught out.
Yeah, but he missed 2 of those shells, or maybe they just absorbed, and these are the shells he can't miss. And you had Failware in the middle with the IS-7 just continuously missing his shells, and it's definitely not going well for KB right now. They're just getting crushed.
Very flimsy strategy for KB, and you can see after those TVPs do try and go for the kill, they're left out in the open and they are picked off one by one. Crux and Bratty are the last 2 remaining. Bratty will be off reload quickly enough to take on Luciquel, but he's probably not counting on the rest of the tanks firing at him from the middle of the map. Now, look, there are far better places for Bratty to have stopped there, behind a building, knowing that Tornado have tanks in the middle, but it all means naught at the end, as Crux will soon fall. He's going to peek Diodor, he's going to get taken out by Luciquel up from behind. Who can I just say? Luciquel played very, very well there. He was the guy that went for the pick on towards Tarantula, that one TVP that was a little bit of out of position and quite low on health there. Yeah. So, you know, good work by Tornado Rocks. They may have lost Diodor or Dynamo early on the round, but the recovery was very, very good. And after, I don't know, you know, it felt gimmicky, actually. It feels gimmicky when you're a team who keeps those 3 TVPs back, tries to go for that one pick off, and then just get smeared across the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you're playing against these Russian teams, is that they train a lot, like a hell of a lot. And what they do, I mean, when I watch them training, they always playing the same tactics. They're always playing the similar tactics, and the other team will counter-strat that tactic. So they get into this kind of weird situation where even if you're, well, I see this a lot of teams. You're trying to play against another team, right? You're trying to train against them, and you're playing a tactic, and then the other team will bring like the exact lineup which will beat your tactic, or just push up a line and just drive straight into them. And you're like, what's the point in training if you're just going to do that? And I feel like that's where the Russian teams really let themselves down. They do well, like we saw, for instance, at the grand finals or season finals.
Yep.
They do well when you're playing like the 8 hours of training they did, the tactics they trained there. But if you throw it up in the air, something completely unusual, you do actually win the rounds. And I think that's where what KB's been trying to do. That tactic worked. They got FC Dynamo down, and they did some good damage across the board. But you can see there, we had Bratty missing his shells, Failware missing his shells, and you know, nobody Arcade's going to die there. Tarantula also died. But, I mean, Bratty 1.1k, the Batchat has 5 shells, 390 average damage. That's basically 2k. That's 900 off. He should have killed one of those tanks. Failware should have done more.
Oh.
I mean, there's so many misses there that I felt like KB had the right idea, just the wrong execution.
Put it this way. FC Dynamo died first, right? But he did the same amount of damage as Tarantula. So what's the point? You just traded these 2 tanks that did the same amount. Tarantula was one of the guys that tried to jump on that one as well and ambush FC Dynamo. He hit 1 shot and then died.
I don't know, but the thing is, the rest of his 3 other tanks were sitting behind. They were just they knew they could get the pick off. Tarantula pushed forwards. I'm not sure why he did that.
No, me neither. That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that it's fine if you can get rid of that one enemy tank early on. You said that strategy worked, but when Tarantula dies, having done the same amount of damage as the tank that they assassinated, it's not an assassination. It's a 1-for-1 trade, and it's not worth it when you're using these TVPs that need to be in groups of 2 or 3. You can't go around on your own in a TVP. You only have 4 shots. It's like the T69 in the days of old. It just doesn't work. So, flimsy, slightly gimmicky stuff there from KNACKERBROD, and it has cost them dearly. Now, of course, moving on to the final map, I mean, both of these rounds need to go to KB. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself as a team. This is their map, but Tornado Rocks have run away with the last 4 rounds. So morale will be high, confidence will be there, they'll be sharp, they'll be ready to go, and KB need to drag themselves out of this one as well. It's going to be very, very tough. Mines may well be our battlefield where things are decided here as we do jump in a few moments. We're going to see some artillery coming out here, at least from KNACKERBROD, but they have to make it work. We'll see if they can throw the spanner in the works. Let's see. We talk about these teams, Ollie, that are so drilled, like Tornado Rocks, throw them something different, and they may fall apart. But the fact is, this is a team full of some of the best players. So if they do get to revert to their instinctual play, they're still going to be better pound for pound than KB.
Yeah, for sure. They've just got the players to really pay the bills, to be honest. I mean, and moving on to Mines, 75% win ratio for Tornado, 37%. You know, we're basically moving on to Tornado's strongest map to KB's weakest map. So, I mean, we're a match point for KB, for Tornado as well. I mean, they've just been dominant. I feel like KB's thrown 3 rounds now. It could be 3-3, but, you know, we're definitely starting to walk into that area where KB can't really come back from this deficit. Now 2 rounds of deficit for them after an impressive ghost town. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like to see KB play. I like their play, and I think Tornado are really solid.
Yep.
And to be honest, this is Tornado's best outing. I mean, they've looked pretty weak this season so far. But this is definitely their best outing, and they are looking like a team that's got decent tactics, playing well individually, and you know they want those points.
They're not having to do anything too crazy to win these rounds. If you'll notice that they're finding pickoffs as well. And you know what? What if tanks? It's not that complicated a game. If you can have more tanks than your opponent at any one time, you generally have an advantage, and it generally can snowball from there. It's the whole adage, the old theory about having an extra gun in the game, and that's all they're doing, getting early picks and then transitioning from there. Their picks are also smart. These guys individually, we've always called these guys an all-star team in terms of individual skill, but on a team level, like you said, it's where things can deconstruct sometimes, but that's growing pains for a top team as well, and this is their second season in the WGL, still with work to be done as we start a hurdle towards the finals. I mean, Rocks may even find themselves head-to-head with their sister team if it were to be the case at the grand finals, of course, as of course we have a Rocks team in the Russian scene as well. We did get to see them play over the weekend. You should check out the RU scene if you possibly can. I mean, they do coverage for the English scene. I think we don't have English coverage for the Russian scene at the moment, but you should still watch it anyway.
We had it last season. Magus
Yep.
was doing it. Our spectator, our observer. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see that, and maybe that's going to happen in the future at some point. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, they look at our obviously World of Tanks is about 10 times bigger in Russia than it is in Europe.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cultural phenomenon in Russia these days. So Burger King has a meal for the last 2 years or year and a half in Russia. I'd like to get a burger and a tank burger.
I want to go down to Heumarkt wherever and just get a World of Tanks burger or
That'd be
something.
brilliant.
Tiger 2 burger. Let's
I think
go.
you get some in-game gold or something or some sort of reward for buying the burger.
That makes sense now. Seeing Twitch chat half the time, I could see why Burger King are making a killing. But let's have a look at the tanks here. The M40, M43 to start
making a killing
things
off you, mate.
off. You what?
Zinger? Zinger burger?
Oh my god.
That's actually KFC.
Exit the gene pool. 2 E50Ms here for Tornado Rocks, couple TVPs and 250Bs. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. Mines is where we may see the climax of our first match here. 1 round away from victory are Tornado Rocks, and KP clutching onto their 2 rounds and hoping to make a couple more here and take it to our overtime tiebreaker. Let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, so KB really needs to up their game right now, but I think I'll be so gutted as a team if I had thrown 2 or 3 rounds. Like, they've been ahead in 2 or 3 rounds and they just haven't managed to put it together. And Lucic was actually having a little glance of the hill, but saw no one from KB, so they know that their team is just set up, and you can see KB have the TVP Object 140 on that western side island. They got the M40 back, which is just coming off reload. The T110's there as well. And they're all just ready and waiting for Tornado to push the hill. And Tornado didn't take the bait. And it looks like they are expecting another push around from the eastern side.
They'll at least go and check it out, I think, as a few tanks are being put around that way. Crux, though, on the island, hasn't really seen too much except an E50M towards the middle on the TVP. The Annihilator gets 2 free shots. Not good news. This is Crux. I mean, you know, he's either really good or he just makes big mistakes early on that cost his team.
Artillery should have been aiming towards the Crux's position if he was going to go so aggressively out into that island.
He's not. Tarantula's actually looking towards Didor on the hill here, hoping to get a kill. So this is Tornado now trying to make a bit of a flank here, ladies and gentlemen. You can see FC Dynamo is at the front and Positive is there. Soon, in a few seconds, they might just be able to make this one happen. The spots are coming out and Almighty Artur already backing off. Not every shot connecting on towards that STB, but enough damage to send Almighty Artur absolutely reeling. And how does Tarantula respond to this? What can he do from the back in this artillery? It's hard to say now as we see Tornado mobilizing in a big way. They've got the 2 E50Ms on the south. They're going to pincer Knackebrod in the middle of the hill.
Yeah, he's going to get absolutely wrecked now, Almighty Artur. And Tarantula wasn't even aiming towards those tanks that are pushing. They were aiming into a different direction. Now they're trying to push around the corner, but the Armageddon is there with the E50M.
Look at this, Armageddon coming up from behind. There's two E50Ms as well, able to hold these tanks at bay until, well, Tornado Rocks was ready to spring the trap. Unfortunately, KNACKERBROD had one good map up against Tornado Rocks, but one is just not enough, especially in this format now. 3 maps have been brilliant for Tornado Rocks now, and they've shown up in mines in a big way. It's pad now, shots from in front and behind, and it's at this point where you start looking around the battlefield for your teammates and realize that there just aren't that many left. There's, I guess, burning hulls on either side of pad, and he knows he's about to meet his maker. SC Dynamo doesn't actually go for the ram, interestingly enough, as a lighter tank that he is. He's going to be looking to finish off those last couple of targets. It's nobody. Well, he's somebody, but barely, I guess, as the health gets shaved off of him and Tarantula in the back corner. It's pretty obvious to know where an artillery is going to be sitting on this map, and Tornado Rocks will go and find him, and they will kill him.
Yeah, game over for KB. Obviously, this round was just really a null round for them. I think they probably are out of this game. You can see Tarantula's just going to have reload for this shot and might actually find FC Dynamo.
Well, he's going to wait and hold the corner. He does get the shot, but it's not going to be enough for the one shot, and FC Dynamo will get the finish off. There is Tornado Rocks, ladies and gentlemen. They get it done 5-2. Not nearly as close a result as we thought it would be initially, Ollie.
Yeah, I thought KB would be able to provide a lot more, actually. And I think, you know, it's a kind of a mark of an inexperienced team, or just a team that's not gelling well together, where they have the... I mean, you can see they've got trained and applied tactics. They go for it. It works out for them, but everything else after that just goes terribly wrong. You know, they just make some mistakes, and you know, you can see Tornado Rocks doesn't miss their shells. They don't peak when they don't have to, and they're consistently very good. And yeah, okay, Tornado didn't do anything too unusual apart from that Mines map where they just pushed in for the eastern side. And to be fair, I mean, KB just didn't do anything about it. They tried to push into the middle. They let the Armageddon have that position. You had Tarantula not really aiming towards those tanks that are pushing from the east. I mean, it's just terrible. I have no other words for it.
Terrible. Just terrible, guys. Well, I mean, to be fair, it's always frustrating as well to see a team with such potential, or who shows up very, very strongly on that first map, and we're seeing some well-executed strategy there as well. You can be lulled into a false sense of security as well, thinking KB were going to come out on top here. But everything came crashing down soon enough. After Ghost Town, it was pretty much one after another after another. Himmelsdorf wasn't good for them as well. We saw it through towards Mines, and that obviously was where things ended here. FC Dynamo Vorsen and the Annihilator up on top. This is a good example of a team who uses those TVPs well. It wasn't an assassination mission so much, excuse me, as a spearhead for Tornado Rocks, and Pat and Tarantula just had to try and hold on. You know, props to Tarantula, actually did a decent amount of damage, but it's completely unremarkable and completely unnoticeable because it's not coming at the right time. I mean, the game's already lost, and Tarantula's just trying to do what he can to keep them in it.
Yeah, about 800 damage just done in that last shell, and you can see basically all the players from KB did nothing. Nobody did 1.6k. Yeah, I mean 1.3k. You're talking about, you know, to deal the damage when you're playing a tier 10, you need to do at least 2k. That's equal to most tier 10's HP pool, and something that definitely works out for you. But yeah, I mean, this just wasn't KB's day. I feel like they're the team that can tilt very quickly after some losses on Himmelsdorf and just losses in general. I think they have to go back to the drawing board on that one. But they are on the right track. Like they put up a fight against Tornado Rocks, potentially and probably the best team in the world. Just looking at their lineups, I mean, they got full studded, starred lineup. Everything's great. Considering that Wombats is slightly weaker now, considering that Kazla Crew is also losing games, considering Na'Vi and Hellraisers also look pretty bad, they are actually potentially the team that could go in, for instance, the Grand Finals 2016 and certainly the season finals for Europe as you know, the top echelon.
Well, there we go. Match 1 done. Before we do go to a break, we'll hang out with Melly quickly. I do want to show my screen because Magus has shown us something that we'll talk about beforehand. So
Yes.
Henning will be able to, hopefully in a sec, throw up my screen and we can have a look at this, which is, of course, a lot of tanks. Burger King meal. This is from October 2014 here. So Magus,
what have you got in there? Some hash browns. Is that hash brown? Is that egg or onion? I think that's onion, right?
Yeah.
Hash browns, onion, some ranch sauce, I think
Is there chips in the burger?
Sauce.
That's freaking awesome,
That's
dude.
chips.
Maybe
and
it's
then,
cheese chips or something like that.
yeah, maybe like curry chips.
If there was, like,
And there's a pasty there
if you
as well.
put pommes or like chips in a burger, I would eat the heck. I love chips in burgers. I don't know why. It's so good. You have to try it.
Yeah, it's good.
Explains why I look the way I do as well. But that's just the That's the way it is. That's the way it is. So there you go. You can get a code from Burger King there. I'd say that's in Russia, having a look at the writing, or maybe in the Ukraine, actually, depending on where Magus was with Taffa and Co. But there you go. Melly, we all that aside, 5-2 Tornado Rocks there. Consistently strong performance over the last 3 maps, and the voting didn't really lie.
Absolutely. No, not at all. It ended with 66%, which is, of course, lower than it has started. And it peaked something around 80, but yes, it closed down at 66%, where, well, KB has a very vocal fan base, as we know from Twitch chat.
Captain.
We love you guys, that as well. So people, the next vote is online, so head over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/WGLEU, and get involved for your next chance of winning bonus codes. Simply predict the exact scoreline for the upcoming match and choose regarding team logo, and boom, you're in. And if you're lucky and one of the fastest correct predictants, you might win a code. Also hashtag WGLEU on Twitter.
It's behind her head.
Yeah, perfect placement there as well. So you might get a code. You won't get a burger with it, unfortunately, guys. We don't do
Mitch
those.
will buy you a
Hit up
burger.
Mayland if you want a burger, though.
Yeah.
I'll have a burger with you if Mayland makes me one, or if you make one. Doesn't matter. Just give me a burger. Anyway, we're going to go to the break, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, it's going to be Wombats on Tanks going up against Out of Range. Carmen already chomping at the bit earlier on, putting his thoughts on Twitter. Let's see if he has the money to put it where his mouth is. We'll find out when we come back.